Welcome to the Codeplay Culture podcast, where we discuss tech, gaming, health, and the world around us.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another exciting, amazing episode, Codeplay Culture podcast. Rui and Logan, we are joined by our first guest ever, and what a guest to have, Carl. Nice to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Hi, Carl.
And
hey,
so Carl is a resident enthusiast, evangelist, hobbyist of all things blockchain and crypto. And I myself am not too much about it other than the Azure stuff. Rui, I mean, you've dabbled in a little bit here and there, but
that's a little bit, yeah.
Do you know anything about deep, like how deep people can get in that kind of stuff?
Well, I know how people can get financially deep in holes because of that stuff, and I know all about that. Yeah, that's the extent of my blockchain knowledge.
Fair enough. Yeah. It's like so Carl, like blockchain as a concept, it has nothing to do with crypto. Is that correct?
I would say yes and no. Right?
Okay.
It's not such a cut and dry technology that you can just look at it and understand it very quickly. And the terminology, I think a lot of things in IT and tech, the terminologies are ambiguous. Like, I'll give you an example. Like cloud can mean a lot of different things, and virtualization is probably even more of a call it an abused term, where everything's virtualized, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so, what does that mean? What does it mean to have a virtual network or virtual servers? Like, so, with the way I look at blockchain and the actual currencies, the cryptocurrency, like the monetary, the trading, the investment aspect of it, is break it down and look at how blockchain is consumed in like Azure or AWS. And then there's other projects, which honestly I haven't looked in quite a while, but Hedera and ICP, which is the Internet Computing Protocol. And those projects, the last time I looked at it, you could purchase their compute and storage on their blockchains without using cryptocurrency. You could use a credit card. And just like in Azure or AWS, you can purchase blockchain services using a credit card, or if you're buying through a reseller, then you do it on net 30 terms. So the actual, the cryptocurrency it's still in play. So the companies that are allowing you to purchase with a credit card, they're using the crypto tokens in the back end, right? And then that gets in that space. So what is a cryptocurrency and what's a crypto token? Well, they're all called cryptocurrencies because, as an example, Hedera or ICP have cryptocurrencies, but that currency is not used. Their currency is not used as a currency; it's used as a token. So this is where like the terminology starts to confuse a lot of people when they're still new to blockchain and crypto. And unfortunately, I think it's just the nature of any new tech. When people might read a few articles or listen to a few podcasts of people talking about it, and if people are talking about cryptocurrency, there's the assumption that that's all it is. It's cryptocurrency. And then when you try and educate those people that, like, some of them are used as tokens, very similar to the way air miles rewards are a token,
right?
And air miles rewards are not currencies. And then but you hear a lot of like, but why do they call it a currency? And it's like, well, you can explain that, but some people, they're not ready for that early adopter stage of the technology. So when people are looking at, the ease of use of using dApps and wallets and, MetaMask type wallets that are browser extensions or Ledger hardware wallets, that ease of use is very, very low. It takes a lot of time and effort to figure out what you're doing and how it all works. And, you got to watch a pile of YouTube videos and maybe talk to some friends, read some articles. So there's a lot of time invested in, with I think most people that are in crypto. And if it's not them putting the time in, they have access to someone else that did put the time in. So
Right.
if I'm sitting with a friend, which I've done, and I've shown him how it all works, whether it's a hardware wallet or a centralized exchange, and the difference between crypto and tokens, and he's going to forget it in 2 or 3 days or a week, right?
Mhm.
But I'm always there. He can just call me up as someone to help guide him along. People that don't have that, they don't have the time, then I think it's not for them, as whether it's an investor or an enthusiast.
Mhm.
As a developer, because you guys are developers, um, I think it's like any new tech, right? How much time do you have to put into it? What's the use case for you? What's the demand for you? If you've got customers, or your employer doesn't want or need blockchain, you're super busy working whatever hours you're working, just trying to figure out how to keep on top of the existing code and libraries that you're working with. Then until something uh, you know comes out of the blue, or that demand for blockchain is presented to you or uncovered as an absolute requirement, then it's an R&D project at that point. But my interest in blockchain is that the companies that are adopting blockchain today, or that are basically blockchain first companies, that are maybe like the Cardanos or the Hederas, Polkadots, even Ethereum. Whether you call them a company or an organization or foundation, depends on how they're structured. But those companies and organizations, foundations, the DAOs, I mean, again, a lot of acronyms. Those guys that are going 100% blockchain first, they're gonna beat competition, most for the most part, that are late to the game. Now that's not
Mhm.
always the case, right? There's a lot of companies like Apple or Microsoft that were late to the game for. I mean, Apple wasn't the first company to make phones or iPods, MP3
Right.
players, and Microsoft were late to the game on virtualization, but they found a way to wedge themselves in there, and now they're doing their cloud. So, I mean,
So
I'm going to
so how
stop
does
there,
the
because once I get going, I start getting really passionate about it. And but yeah, I hope that
That's
gives you a
good.
bit of a backgrounder.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's great. Yeah, so I want to ask you something. How does blockchain like ensure our privacy? Because I know like it deals with a lot of, currency, and everything's kind of captured in a ledger. And it's obviously not with cash. You can do whatever you want, because I look at crypto like it's a currency. I don't look at it from a token or usage perspective, because I have money invested in it. But how can it like ensure our privacy, or can it even? Is that even possible?
Yeah, like the difference between like a public blockchain or a private blockchain, and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. Like I know a little bit about that, but yeah, like as a public registry that's decentralized and
Mhm.
essentially replicated to many different people, how does it work for the private part? Like as people are using this all over the place for nefarious and non-nefarious purposes, dark web, onion router, level of stuff. And why would if they pick privacy as a standard for that, um like how, how does the privacy versus the public work for decentralized? Like it seems like oh, here's the data, but oh, you can't see the data. How is it private but also public, kind of thing?
Mhm.
Those are good questions. I mean, in terms of like the Bitcoin blockchain, and you guys are probably aware, the transactions are public, right? So
Mhm.
they're transparent. And if you make your Bitcoin addresses, you can have more than one address, public. Like if you're uh, maybe you're whatever, like what is it, Patreon, you put on your Bitcoin address or
Right.
something to get donations, or you're a
Mhm.
nonprofit, then anyone can see those transactions to that Bitcoin address, right? They can see what you
Mhm.
have moved in and out. In terms of privacy, that's your I think you can pick 24 or 12 word passphrase. That
Right.
private phrase. That's your privacy,
Okay.
right? That's
Okay.
and
Yeah.
that's on a public blockchain. If it's a private blockchain, like Does it have to be centralized? I, you know, I this is
Would it
where
depend
I'm
on?
still trying to wrap my head around, because I think you can have private blockchains that are still
Hmm.
decentralized, like Hedera had that model, and I
Mm,
believe they're changing
Yeah.
it to go more open source, where the
Hmm.
node validators and the stakers are corporations like Google or Boeing are on the
I see.
Hedera. They're involved in Hedera at some level,
Hmm.
and so all the transactions there are a little bit more. I don't want to
Transparent.
say they're hidden, because any developer can generate, if you, anyone that has access to the blockchain
Right.
mhm.
that's distributed is going to be able to see the transactions on it.
So
Now,
anybody can
blockchains
potentially
that are
know if
pure,
yeah, sorry, I was gonna
yeah,
say
I
anybody
was
can
just going to,
potentially know
yeah,
if
go
I
ahead.
send Logan some money, or any like developer can kind of get access to that information, right?
Well, yeah. So if someone knows that that address is related to you, then maybe you publish your address on Twitter at looking for donations
I
or
see.
whatever.
Right.
Then they can see that you sent a certain amount of crypto to another address. Now they're not going
Hmm.
to know that that other address was Logan's address unless Logan already published his address.
Okay,
Okay.
So
that makes
So
total
this
do
is,
they
sense.
just see? Is it just like a wallet code? So like you have your wallet, hash or whatever, and it's like this much Bitcoin sent to this wallet code. Is it just like an exchange? Is a ledger just an exchange between wallets, like external
pretty much,
wallets?
yeah, pretty
Okay.
much, yeah.
So they see
But
the transaction of the wallets, but they don't know that this wallet belongs to Rui and this one
Okay,
belongs to
well,
Carl.
right, right,
so part of that
and
privacy is in your hands.
yeah, and yeah, don't publish your addresses. And a lot of
Mhm.
blockchains, when there's transactions, they suggest using a new address for each new transaction.
I see.
Right.
Yeah, because I recalled recently, I can't remember when, but there was a certain political leader that was freezing people's crypto wallets. I can't remember his name. But yeah, that happened somewhere in some country. I can't remember the country, but it was something something
Like
like that.
it's vague enough that like you can't say any more, and then there's a knock at your door and your camera goes off. It's like, sorry, we
Exactly.
lost Rui for some reason. Like he's
Well,
already said too much.
so if anyone, nefarious or not, knows your Bitcoin address, they can't seize your Bitcoin,
Hmm.
Hmm.
right?
Is it
They
stored
can,
locally?
no, it's stored on the blockchain. The only thing that would be
Okay.
stored locally, if you if you chose to store it locally, would be your passphrase, which
Okay.
is your passphrase is basically your private key, right? With blockchain encryption, there's public keys and private keys.
Mhm.
So, and I may be butchering this a little bit, but your address, your Bitcoin address, look at that as being the public key, right? And with encryption, you need a private key to be able to allow transactions from that address so that you can send money. You can receive money without using your public key, or
Yeah.
sorry, your private key, but to actually go in there and send any crypto out, any Bitcoin out, you need to unlock that with your private key, right? So
Mhm.
your private key, if you have a hardware wallet like a Ledger or a Trezor, your private key is stored on that hardware wallet, which it looks like a little USB key.
Yeah.
In some cases, it's a large USB looking key with a little LED screen on it. It's not a USB
Like a
key. That's
YubiKey?
yeah, but yeah, except it's running an OS on there,
Hmm.
so
Mhm.
it's not just flash storage. It's got an operating system on there. Your private key is stored on the hardware wallet. If you're using a wallet like in a browser extension wallet, like with Cardano, they have the URI wallet. Like every blockchain, most of them have their own wallet. Um, then your key is stored encrypted in that wallet on
Mhm.
in your browser extension, stored locally on your machine, and it's encrypted.
Hmm.
So yeah, this is where it starts to get like there's a lot of moving pieces in terms of how privacy data, passphrases, addresses are all kind of like moved around. And then for anyone that is still new to blockchain and crypto, then they need to understand the difference between centralized exchanges where you don't have your private key, you just have a password to get into the exchange
Right.
so that you can see the transactions you've done, you can see how much you have in your account for each cryptocurrency, but you don't own the private key. The crypto exchange does, and that's the problem with, like FTX and Mt. Gox. When people, they all the crypto that was lost or stolen, whatever you want to call it, that crypto was, if it was actually purchased on the blockchain, or transacted on the blockchain, then the crypto stays on the blockchain, but FTX owns the key, so they have
Hmm.
access to the crypto. I mean, there's other levels of you know shenanigans that went on where they'd actually didn't even, you gave them whatever, $100 to buy Bitcoin, and they never actually bought Bitcoin. They just took your cash and made it look like you bought Bitcoin and used your cash
Nice.
for something else. So that's
Right.
centralized exchanges, and that's the same issues that are going on, not the same but similar kind of problems that you're seeing with like these, Silicon Valley Bank, or these,
Right.
um, where
Yeah.
you think the bank is they call it solvent, where they have enough money to do what they're supposed to be able to honor, and it
Hmm.
turns out they don't, and then the fear in the bank runs. So yeah,
Yeah.
but I was
Yeah.
going to say with
That's pretty
Azure,
crazy.
and AWS, the I don't know, but um, I think it's all, those are all private blockchains. So if I knew your address, I still couldn't see it. I would have to have your actual Azure credentials to log in to
Right.
see the transactions on that. But
Hmm.
to go back to your other question, so like if it's a blockchain like Ethereum, there's actually data and smart contracts on there. Can I see
Hmm.
that data? And I don't think you can, but I'm not 100% sure, because it depends on how that data is stored, right? Is that data stored in such a way that you can only see it if you have the private key? Or is that data stored like on, there's a crypto called Filecoin, which people can use
Hmm.
for web hosting. So you don't have to use like a GoDaddy. You can store
Right.
your HTML and JavaScript right on the Filecoin. That
Hmm.
that would have to be publicly available so anyone
Right.
can
Right.
download your website.
So does it depend on the implementation, or it almost seems like, in your opinion, would it be like accurate to say that it's very fragmented, depending on the technology, the coin, the implementers, and the parties using it, and whether they adopt to certain practices or not? Or would you say the complete opposite of like, no, it's pretty much standard, everyone's complying with X, Y, and Z? Or are you finding, and secondly, like, are you finding that a lot of people are reaching out to resident expert, enthusiast evangelists like yourself, and saying, hey, I'll pay you by the hour, I just don't understand this stuff and I really need someone to guide me through that? So like, what, like, because it seems, is it fragmented or is it kind of easy? Because
So
what I'm hearing, I think it's fragmented, right?
yeah, so it's definitely fragmented, and these are problems that certain companies are again, company project are working on. Um, Look at it, metaphors or analogies are usually pretty good. Back in the old day, if you had a VM running on VMware, you couldn't simply bring that VM into another virtualization platform. And then they had converters to convert, a VMDK to whatever the Hyper-V format is.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, what's,
AHV or Hyper V.
another good example might be, you can't compile, you know uh, Pascal with a C compiler,
Hmm.
right? There's that level of compatibility. You can't
Hmm.
uh, that level of compatibility with blockchains. It has to be just like you can't run a, well, you can, but not easily. You can't run a Mac app on a Windows desktop.
Right.
Right.
So these are problems with cross chain interoperability that Cardano is working on, Polkadot's working on, and there's a few others, so that you can have this ability to move resources, which are essentially either tokens or smart contracts, between blockchains, or at least
Hmm.
access them from one chain to another. So if you're writing a DApp, right? DApp stands for distributed application, which is just an app running on the blockchain. Uh, Again, when I say the blockchain, a lot of people think there is only one blockchain, just like there's only
Hmm.
one There's only one internet. I
Yeah.
think there's a lot of people out there that think there's only one email, right? Like they don't understand
Mm.
that there's email servers for centralized email. Uh, Ignore the word centralized, but like Rogers email or Bell or Google, they have email servers, but
Mhm.
corporations can have their own unique, distinct email servers. So you guys and me, understanding networking and how data centers work, because I think you know everyone's coming at blockchain and crypto from a different viewpoint, and
Right.
and my understanding of already of virtualization data centers, storage networks, um, it's allowed me to look at blockchain. Once I understood blockchain, it woke me up to like, wow, there's something really interesting going on here.
Mm. Carl, I have a very spicy question for you. Are you
I
a
like
Fire away.
spice.
proponent of are you a proponent of government regulation in crypto? Be
I
careful
think
now.
I think it's like a rubber band.
It's like,
It's like a rubber band, and I think it was the Dalai Lama that used the rubber band analogy, that if a rubber band is too loose or too tight,
Hmm.
it doesn't do its job, right?
Right.
So,
Right. I
um,
see. The middle ground.
yeah, there's got to be a middle ground, right?
Yeah, I agree.
I think kind of going back to the usability issues, these are being worked out. The blockchain, the developers working on these blockchain projects, I think they're
Hmm.
realizing that in order to get the average person that uses the internet or email to use blockchain and crypto, they've got to make it significantly easier to use.
Right.
mm,
And I've told friends that, man, like, don't mind me. I talk like I'm trying to, like I'm a Bitcoin or a crypto sales guy sometimes when I get going. And I've toned it down a
Mhm.
lot because, um, you know, I realized that, look, when I get caught up in it, in the discussion, it's easy to just go off on tangents. And when I'm talking to people that don't understand technology, and I take it for granted that I'm explaining it in a way that's not full of acronyms, because I'll break it down, but I talk fast and I'm
Mhm.
just going on all these, like,
mm,
just boom, 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 boom when I get going. And what I realize is that it's like, the average person doesn't know what they're buying for their investments, right? They're trusting
Right.
an advisor to give them a basket of funds, usually in mutual funds, maybe ETFs, and there's that level of trust with their financial advisor.
Hmm.
And I look at blockchain, well, Bitcoin, like Tesla owns Bitcoin on their balance sheet. Square does. There's a few others.
mm,
There may be like two to five companies in the Fortune 500 that own blockchain on their balance sheets. So most
Hmm.
people that have some kind of S&P 500 or retirement plan that has exposure to the U.S. S&P 500, they already own Bitcoin by proxy,
Right.
mm.
and they just don't know it. And
Right.
if you believe Michael Saylor, who is the CEO of MicroStrategy, if you buy into what his philosophy and thesis is with Bitcoin, that more and more companies are going to keep putting Bitcoin on their balance sheet, and
Hmm.
does the average person need to own Bitcoin? I don't think so. I don't think it hurts either. Like, I might be messing his name up, but Chamath Happy Patelia,
Yeah, yeah. From
the All In
the besties
podcast, and
podcast. Yeah,
I
yeah.
forget his.
That's like the not top five or number one for a while. Like, yeah, I listen to that nonstop. Like, he's a ex Facebook, I guess, just tech billionaire. But they're all like, I'd say, I think almost all of them, except the one host guy is, they're like stinking rich entrepreneurs that are super smart. But yeah, Chamath Papalatia, or I can't pronounce his last name, but yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, not just him, but I think Kevin O'Leary and a bunch of other guys they suggest people hold between 1% and 5% of their savings in Bitcoin as a
Hmm.
hedge, just in case.
Yeah.
And that's still risky, right, to a lot of people. And financial advisors are if they're not incented, because you can buy Bitcoin through an ETF in Canada and like as a spot Bitcoin. In the
Hmm.
US, they do not yet have a spot Bitcoin. And then, you know,
What is that?
people
Like
that,
a spot Bitcoin? Is that
well,
like wealth simple or?
no, spot Bitcoin means that the ETF actually holds the underlying Bitcoin asset.
Would you happen
And
to know
they,
which
and
ETF it is?
Purpose is the biggest one in Canada.
Interesting.
But
Okay.
like for the average person, then, you know, there's the, do you buy the unhedged or the hedged ETF,
Hmm.
right?
Right.
I think there's two or three other Bitcoin ETFs in Canada. Um, there are Bitcoin trusts. So there's like, if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to go, this is just too much to wrap my head around.
Right.
Hmm.
Do I buy unhedged or hedged? Do I buy the
Hmm.
trust or the ETF? And then the US, there's no spot ETF yet. They're still on a futures ETF, which is um, not, they don't own Bitcoin in the futures ETF. They're speculating on the future price of Bitcoin.
Yeah.
So, and
Well, you know what I
that's,
say. Yeah, I was gonna say, when in doubt, buy the trust. I mean, you can trust it, right? That's
um,
my philosophy. I mean, that's not financial advice by any means. Please don't take it.
You
yeah,
can trust the trust because it's called trust.
I don't know. I don't know if enough about the trust. There's a grayscale Bitcoin trust or crypto trust in the U.S., and I think they have a basket of funds where you can pick and choose which cryptos you want to be um, investing in. But you're paying a premium for my understanding. You're paying a premium for Bitcoin in a trust. So if Bitcoin's trading at $20,000 in the trust, you may be paying, I think, up to 10 to 30% more, right? So you're paying a premium for it. And then I think a lot of these trusts are starting to wrap things down. And I believe partly because there's the ETF, the futures Bitcoin, that is starting to take um, more capital from people. But I think they're pushing hard to try and get the SEC to regulate a proper spot ETF in the U.S. I know there's companies pushing hard for that, but I think that's why the trusts are starting to lose a bit of popularity. But I'm not too on the my nose isn't really to the street on that stuff, so my information's a little laggard. I'll tell you guys this though: there's some really good podcasts that YouTube videos or YouTube channels that are
Hmm.
talking about Bitcoin and crypto. If you're willing to listen to that kind of stuff, Coin
For
Bureau,
sure. Coin Bureau.
yeah, Digital Asset News, and Invest Answers. Those, and there's a few others, but those are the top three that kind of come to mind.
Yeah, we'll put those three in the links in the show notes for the viewers so they can check it out.
Yeah.
For people that are listening up to this point, you could probably tell already it's such a depth of knowledge. Like if you don't know, it's so hard to get into. Like the elevator pitch for banking is, give me $100. I'll keep it at the bank, and then maybe I'll invest or whatever. I'll give you back $105 in a couple of years, whatever it is,
Hmm.
for 2.5, whatever, non-compounding, just annual, boom. And I'm like, okay, that sounds like a good elevator pitch. But the elevator pitch for, you know, it's so hard. And like you said, Carl, like whoever can find a way to simplify this for, granny and grandpa that don't even know about Facebook yet, and they want to like put some money into this, and you can explain it faster than a bank, is probably going to like end up super ahead. But it's hard. You have to mask a lot of that stuff because right now, because of the infancy of the technology, and as it's getting more standardized and progressing forward, it's not simplified as much as it can be in like 10 years from now. So, but if you have I guess the time, the energy, or someone like yourself, Carl, that can help someone wrap their head around, like getting in early is good. Like Rui, people and I do too, that we're able to put some in and get a lot out.
Right.
But
Right.
sometimes without that depth of knowledge or research or that passion that you have, Carl, like it's very difficult for someone that's just starting out. So those probably the three YouTubers are. Would you say like those are good for getting started, or where would you say for like newcomers to trying to understand blockchain, crypto, and Like where's the Hello World app for crypto? Getting started page.
Yeah, I mean the guys. So those three YouTube channels I watch, I would say they're like beyond the beginner level. But if
Mhm.
beginners are willing to listen and be patient to listen to, a lot of their videos are 15, 20 minutes. So there's a time commitment. I listen to these videos when I'm driving to work, driving home.
Mm,
If I'm going for a hike, I'll listen to them on the drive to the hike. I don't listen to stuff when I'm out hiking. I just want to be clear, like
yeah.
clear of that,
Clear mind.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
dopamine
Instead of
coming in
content
from.
in the ears.
If I'm doing the dishes, I'll turn the volume up and listen to it while I'm doing the dishes. Sometimes if it's interesting, because you're going to miss stuff when you're cleaning the house and listening to a podcast. It's just,
Mm,
at least I do. So sometimes I'll go back and I'll rewind stuff, or I'll listen to the same podcast twice. I'm calling it a podcast. These are like, 15, 20-minute videos. Some of the videos are a little
yeah.
shorter, but to answer your question, there are other people out there doing more basic videos that are more geared to people that are just getting their feet wet. So, I mean, like, there's exchanges out there. And one of my friends is telling me, like, Kevin O'Leary and his Wonderfy company owns BitBuy in Canada. They own Coinberry in Canada, but you
Mm,
have to upload your ID to these companies. Like
ah,
you
Right.
would upload
no more
either
privacy.
a copy
Not
of
on
your.
exchanges.
Yeah, you've got to give an exchange, a private company, your driver's license. If you don't have a
Right.
driver's license, then your passport and your social. I think they need your social insurance number and a photograph. So a
Mm,
lot of people are just concerned about that level of security,
yeah.
like
Right.
putting information out. They're not a bank, right? Um,
Yeah.
Right.
Like I think with banks, you can just go up to the teller and give them whatever ID. You don't have to upload it to some mythical cloud internet, wherever it goes after that. The other thing they
Mhm.
call it KYC, right? So KYC, a lot of the companies, the crypto exchanges that require KYC, they send your private data to a third party company to validate it. So now
Mm,
you've got
yeah.
your data going between all these different places. Um, and it's scary, right? Like you read
And
about
it's
data
likely
breaches.
offshore too.
Yeah, where is your data going? I think some of these KYC companies are in Ireland or offshore. And
Hmm.
if they're in Ireland, where do they send it to? So your
Right.
data could be going anywhere. Uh, you know, you're. I mean, I think everybody knows someone that's had their bank account or their debit card or their credit card hacked.
Hmm.
Once you hit a certain age, you tend to you're exposed to more stories and stuff. So that's a
Right.
big that's a big issue too. You know, again, the banks, if and when the banks allow people to buy crypto in their retirement plans, like so you can buy crypto directly, not an ETF, or even if
Yeah.
it's outside of your retirement plan. But when the banks allow people to buy crypto, I say when, I mean like if and when, then
Right.
um, then it's going to be a more safe environment for the average person that wants to invest. The other
Right.
thing with crypto, as I mentioned to Logan, is that it's not just about the investment; it's about the actual technology, right? Um, like if you care about what crypto is going to do to change and improve the world, then you have to, in my mind, you have to separate that from any potential investments or monetary gains. If that's something that you're interested in, which I
Mm,
find very interesting because, and I think you have to also do that or trust other
Mhm.
people to do it for you, right?
Right.
Like these crypto guys are saying, like these are the tokens I buy, these are the tokens I talk about because they're the ones I'm interested in. I don't like they'll say I don't talk about tokens that I'm not interested in. Then there's other
Hmm.
guys that'll talk about the top tokens that are in the news.
Right.
But there's I think 10,000 crypto tokens. So how do you know which ones
mm,
to buy? Even as a developer, if you're not interested in the investment, how do you know which one to write a DApp for? Like I know
yeah.
when you guys we're talking about we talk about React. I mean, I was looking at, do I use React? We're talking now web application development, nothing to do with
Mm,
blockchain.
Hmm.
So web front ends, do I use React, Angular, Meteor JS? Do I do it in what is it, PHP? Like, what do I do? Like, and
Of
there's
course,
all
you do
this
it in
time and
PHP.
effort, and resources. And if you
Yeah.
don't if you don't have like a network of friends to guide you and let you know their uh,
Hmm.
success and failure stories about certain
Mm.
platforms, and all you're doing is reading hacker news and these
Yeah.
reviews, that's what I went through, and it was like, oh, it was just so much information to digest, and then
Mhm.
you just kind of just dig in head first, and um, and learn as you go. I think that's a lot of people do, right? Like, you know,
Hmm.
if you're investing, put in $50 or $100, going small, so that you have
Yeah.
skin in the game.
Right.
And learn it, because a lot of these projects, as you learn, as you learn more about them, whether you're developing or investing, a lot of the great marketing, the great website, the great papers, the user numbers, all of a sudden, like things you find out there's new information, and these are like going down, right?
Mhm.
Hmm.
Um,
You know, I've invested in crypto. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, I suppose I love losing money. That's why I. It seems to be a trend, but yeah, that's my only brush with the whole blockchain and crypto is just direct investing in an exchange, a centralized exchange, which scares me because their native coin could just vanish and they're finished, and there goes my money.
yeah.
But that's the world crypto lives in. It's very
Right.
uncertain, and just like that, it can disappear.
Well,
Yeah, like FTX, one of the top exchanges, just completely wiped, right?
if you have money that you don't want to lose in a crypto exchange, a centralized exchange, whether it's Coinbase
Hmm.
or BitBuy or whatever, do yourself a favor, get a hardware wallet, or at the very least, use like a browser extension wallet.
Right.
Mm.
But their
And
native
hardware,
token will still, like, if they go down, their native token's done, even if you
but
keep it
if
in
you
cold
don't have
storage.
it, no, no, no. Oh, well, yeah, but just don't buy the native tokens.
Right. Right.
Fair
Like
enough.
if you're buying native tokens for, what I don't know if KuCoin has a native token, KuCoin or Binance.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're definitely
Binance
at
does.
risk. Yeah, you're definitely at risk of them going into the toilet like FTX did,
Right.
and that even if Binance as a company is fine, their tokens can still lose favor, right?
Yeah.
Um, like the utility of the Binance token is it's yes, there's utility, right? But it's not
Hmm.
as useful, excuse me, as say Ethereum
Right.
or Cardano is one of my favorites. Uh,
Hmm.
like learn how to use like if you're inclined, learn how to use decentralized exchanges, DEXs,
Hmm.
so that you could buy your tokens in a centralized exchange, whatever you buy. Like say you buy
Right.
Ethereum or Cardano, move that over to your Yori wallet or your MetaMask or whatever wallet you use, and
Hmm.
then you can use like MinSwap for Cardano, or you can use Uniswap for your Ethereum tokens, and then you're
Right.
off the grid at that point.
Right. But
Mm.
then you have those fees, right? Those sometimes astronomical gas fees,
Yes, yes, yeah.
which you don't
So
have in exchanges.
right, right. So
Well, I
that's
shouldn't say.
another problem for people that are trading in small amounts and just experimenting, right?
Hmm.
Because I mean, I don't know what the fees are now with Ethereum. I think the last time I looked was a few months, but like it was like eight. It was I think it was $16 a trade. It doesn't matter if you're trading
Ouch.
$10 or $100, but you're still 10% on $100. But if you're
Hmm.
trading $1,000 or $100,000, then those fees are negligible,
Right.
negligible.
Mm. Mm.
And
Right.
if you look at the dollar values that are transacted on some of these exchanges, I mean, there's the big guns, the whales they're pushing 100K,
Oh
200K, a
yeah.
couple of million here and there. So the fees to them don't it doesn't even hit their radar.
Right. That's one of the
But yeah,
reasons I love exchanges. The fees are extremely low, and the
yeah,
more you trade, the
absolutely.
lower the fees get, right? And the fact that you can get in there and snipe something for super low, and then just kind of off it for a little higher than what you paid for it. And now
It
they have
is.
bots on a lot of these exchanges, right, that do it for you, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, you're right. And again, it's if you have like $20 of this token, $100 of that token, getting those tokens off the exchange,
Hmm.
especially if they're Ethereum based tokens, you're losing all. It's almost, you know what?
Not worth it.
Just leave it on there and take some risk. If that exchange goes in the toilet, you're
Right.
taking risk. That's part of, use multiple exchanges. Don't just use one exchange. Try and diversify your exchanges. There was an article
Hmm.
today I read. Kevin O'Leary is recommending all of his startup companies that he invests in to put no more than 20% of their cash in any one single bank.
Hmm.
His
Mm.
investment philosophy that he announces publicly, maybe he does things differently in private, who
Right.
knows, but he says don't put any more of 5% of your net worth in one single asset.
That makes sense.
He's not
Right.
talking about asset class, I believe. He's just talking about asset, right?
Hmm.
You could have 20% in real estate, but don't have more than 5%. If again, obviously it depends where you're starting out. If you just have one house, right?
Yeah.
But if you have enough, um, uh, you know, money, then be smart and diversify.
Oh, of course.
So
Yeah.
yeah. So my point is diversify on the exchanges you use, and
Hmm.
then
Mm.
if you get into decentralized exchanges and then contributing to liquidity pools
Yeah.
and then staking on a decentralized exchange, that's a whole other head spin. That took me quite a while
Yeah.
to understand that, and I still don't fully understand it. But I've been dabbling with that to understand it. It's very interesting where that goes.
I remember
You know,
going on the wallet and seeing 800% return. Like, I was thinking to myself, what? This is too good to be true. This is insane. But
yeah, yeah,
sure enough, yeah.
yeah. There's tons of them out there that are short term gains. Like Radio Shack has an exchange, which I don't know if they're shutting it down. I think they're on the verge of another bankruptcy, from what I was reading. But
A
Radio
second.
Shack
Wait, a
had an
second bankruptcy?
exchange. I think so. Among
How did
many
that happen?
Yeah.
many other exchanges where they're offering these crazy returns of like 800, 700%, but then
Hmm.
those returns only last for a certain amount of time depending on how many people get into that pool, and then the returns
Yeah.
start to dwindle
To
down.
diminish. Yeah.
The
And look,
pyramid scheme
Diminishing
returns.
returns.
if
Yeah.
if you have crypto locked into a liquidity pool on a decentralized exchange, and that exchange gets hacked or they go
Hmm.
belly up, then you lose that too.
Right.
Done. Right. So there's a lot of risks involved. It's
Yeah.
Yeah, I said there's a certain amount of complexity, and there's just a lot of information to wrap your head around. So it's certainly not for everyone. But what interests me, because I've never thought about it or heard about it, is Logan was talking about being able to use SQL queries on the blockchain, and I'm like, that's a game changer.
Hmm.
Yeah. The blockchain part of it, which is kind of really fascinating in the private and public parts. And when I was doing my research, apparently Azure SQL Ledger or Azure SQL both have ledger capabilities, whether it's write once, unmodified after, or you can modify, but then it has a centralized private or public history table, which is the ledger, is free. So if you have an Azure SQL, let's say you don't have an Azure SQL ledger, um, you can just now with in SQL or T SQL, you can say create table, this GUID for ID, first name, varchar, whatever. And then you say at the end, when you create table, ledger equals on. And then you have to provide a switch that says, hey, do you want this for write once, read only after, or up, what kind of variant of the blockchain ledger table you want. But
Hmm.
yeah, it's free to everyone. Like, I guess what happened was Microsoft they were providing some, I guess, blockchain level of software development kits for various, like they were in it pretty deep and then they got out. And then other companies like Oracle, IBM, and AWS, for example, I guess has like 25% of some kind of a Ethereum node push. I'm not sure too much. Like the AWS is like, they looked at pretty good for SDK level blockchainy stuff. And Azure or Microsoft are just like, you know what, we'll get out of that a bit. We'll pull back and we'll deprecate those blockchain services. But then what we'll do is we'll introduce more of a blockchain level of product that you can just opt into, or it's, you know, free if you have whatever minimum tier of Azure SQL. And then you can have some ledger blockchain tables, and they, you know, read and write just like SQL tables. However, all of that public, private, centralized, decentralized part is kind of software as a service, or PaaS, platform as a service. So you don't have to worry about any of that stuff. What you do have to worry about is things like performance. You know, companies probably don't want to set up Azure SQL Ledger like right away because it is slower, but by design and by consensus, because you do want to have security, privacy, and validity over performance. And Azure SQL and SQL 2022, starting, you know, I think 8 months ago, have a stored procedure that can be called to validate the whole blockchain. Because I guess when you insert a row into the ledger, it has some kind of hash, right? But that hash was computed and created by the previous. So if you don't validate the entire blockchain, that's the whole chain of it,
Right.
it's completely invalid. And you could actually, people can say, you know, because that part is potentially public or private, when other people are having a copy of that part of the data, they can actually run, is this transaction valid? And if it's not, they can say, hey, I'm not transacting on that, or whatever it is, whatever. It's up to the application, you know, like you said, Carl, like React, Angular, Vue, Blazor, you know, Meteor JS, whatever front end you have to show, hey, we were trying to transact that. However, this particular source or destination has an invalid, all that stuff. So they're trying to like make it more like, all right, you want to store your history here? Because at the end of the day, like blockchain is just a validated history, right? There's no way that they can, if there was a way that people would alter it or muck with it, there's ways to validate it. So that's part of the, I guess when I was looking into it, they were talking about how, you know, a malicious DBA or database administrator could just have access to, you know, tables in a bank and just increase their own, you know, revenue with an update statement, whatever
Right.
it is. So this kind of technology allows for no one malicious to be able to, regardless of access. But yeah, like, do you have like people in your, like when people reach out to you, Carl, for like consulting and whatnot, what would you say they're, you know, people that are looking to get help with? Are they more on the business side, the consumer side, or would you say it's like a mix? And are they looking at software solutions, or are they just looking at investment advice, or you know, the platforms and understanding A to Z?
Well, people don't reach out to me in my personal life about crypto. My friends are generally, most of them are just not really into tech. Some of them are interested in it. At work, I'm selling IT gear and to smaller mid-sized companies, and you know, we're selling a little bit of everything. But blockchain, there's some people are interested in it, but it's not there yet. You know, I think I look at, and it's not just me. I look at blockchain the way, like, if you look at virtual servers, you know, VMware, and like literally, like within the first 2 years that VMware came out, it was, I don't know, like whatever, like 1 in 100 companies were using it. Right now, like it's almost every company uses VMware unless they're a cloud first company. There are a few that are using Hyper-V, but
So
I think we're probably, you know, I'm just guessing, and it seems to be kind of like what everyone's saying that knows more than I do. That is, we're looking at like 5 to 10 years out before blockchain becomes, you know, to the extent that like the
So
way it's like
so
Netflix. Everyone's using Netflix, right? Everyone's using
right.
email. Everyone's using virtual servers. Almost
standardized.
everyone's using the cloud. Every like we're probably a good
Mainstream.
5 to 10 years away. Yeah. maybe
So it's
three.
basically going to hit its pinnacle at the same time Chat GPT is going to hit its pinnacle, and it's pretty much the end for everything.
Yeah.
And
Right.
that's that. And
So
it's not a
Chat GPT
coincidence, man.
makes a baby with crypto. And then
Oh
it's like
yeah,
a
man.
Chat GPT and Bitcoin baby that is the AI that just eats us and
It's
spits out like Cordano
what do people say?
and
It's
stuff.
it's Skynet.
Yeah, Skynet. We're not supposed to talk about
Oh
Skynet,
shoot, I
remember?
forgot. Can you edit that out? Sorry, man.
Yeah, I will edit that out. Hopefully I don't forget.
Oh yeah, please don't.
I won't.
How are
Clearly,
you guys doing for time? How are you guys doing for
um,
time here?
yeah, good. Like we have 50, so like I'm just gonna write down at the 50-minute mark. We'll cut this part out, but generally we can go for another 5 minutes if we want to wrap it up, and we could just
Sure.
kind of maybe just kind of bring it back and then okay, all right. So at 50 and then 40, you guys see a clock at the top?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so at 50, I'll kick it off again.
All right, let's go to the same positions.
So I guess Carl, like if someone's looking to get into this space, like this is my blind opinion, and tell me like this is stupid, Logan, or maybe it's a good idea. What I'm hearing, because I'm not like super good like you guys are, like you guys talk the whole time. I'm like, oh man, I'm learning so much. So thank you so much, like all the different terminology and stuff. But what I'm hearing in my if impotency, can't pronounce that, is I should just buy $100 Bitcoin, 100 Cardano, and Ethereum, and maybe do that maybe 3 times in 3 different exchanges. Would that be like a safe bet? Like, as I'm like looking for the 5 or the 20-second elevator pitch to tell to my grandma
Okay, hold on. Before Carl gives his way more wise opinion than me, invest stupidly and you'll be stupidly rich. Sorry, Carl, your turn.
um, it depends what your goals are, right? What are you trying to achieve? Are you trying to learn how to understand
Mm.
and
Yeah. So for
plant the seeds
for,
for a larger investment, or like if
oh,
you're
so let's say that average person that just they're like, oh my gosh, if I don't get my money into Apple or BlackBerry or whatever it was that boomed, but you know what I mean? They're like, it's because it's on the rise.
Mhm.
What do people just like blindly? It's like the GIC, right? Guaranteed whatever, you're going to get a guaranteed,
Yeah.
2% over 5 years. What's the GIC level of I'm going to put in X amount into these 3 coins, or like I just want to like not miss out on the spike?
I expect everything you put into crypto to go to zero. That's the safest
Mm.
expectation.
Absolutely.
There's different. You have to have different levels of expectation. To answer your question, though, um, anyone starting out, just use one exchange and learn how to use a cold wallet and get it off the
Mm.
exchange.
Hmm.
Once you hit that threshold, whether your threshold is, you know, $100, $500, 1,000, 5,000, whatever it is. Once you hit that threshold, learn how to get your crypto off the exchange. Like, and some exchanges will be fine, but you just don't know. Kevin O'Leary, in that article I mentioned, he said you never know when some black swan idiot manager is going to wreck things,
Right.
regardless of whether it's a big bank or a small bank. You just don't know. That's
Mm.
why he was saying 20% of your company's money max in each bank. So 5 banks, 20%. Um, which tokens to pick? If you're just a beginner, just go with Bitcoin.
Mm.
If you wanna like know which um, e-commerce, like back in the day, it's like do you go with chapters or Amazon, or which one do you pick? Amazon was kind of like the leader, but now there's so
Mm.
many out there. There's so many crypto projects. It's I think a lot of people are just going with the top 10 or top 20.
Mm.
And then you have to
Yeah.
decide, how you want to play that game, because um, like when you're investing in these projects, they change. There's new features. There's like Ethereum went from proof of work to proof of stake, and then the people kind of running the show, whether it's Charles Hoskinson from Cardano or whoever is leading that charge, they're going to come into play in terms of the people behind it, like the leadership of that project, the human leadership. With Bitcoin, there's really the leadership it's very different, because the way the leadership is focused on just maintaining that open source code base. versus adding new features. So that, I again, I don't know if Bitcoin and crypto should be for everybody. I think you have to want it. You have to be willing to put the time and effort into it, or find someone that can guide you, like I've been guiding one of my friends along. And I've had another friend guide me to a certain extent, but because I had a better understanding of networking and technology, I just went in deep. So he's my friend. My one friend that got me back into crypto is he's looking at it from an investment standpoint. So he still looks at Ripple and lawsuits and the features that are coming out. But I'm going deeper. I'm looking at it at the network layer, and it's been a while. But about last summer, I was writing smart contracts on Cardano and Solano just to understand it and get a feel for how actually very difficult. And that's why I was interested when you mentioned that Microsoft has you can use SQL. I'm not sure. I want to dig a little bit deeper into this, but as you guys are, I'm sure you're aware, writing SQL queries, you got to write a lot of code to make sure you're writing queries that are they're going to do what you want them to do. That you're not losing data or people can delete data inadvertently. And the blockchain is just it's an extra layer of security and protection on databases if you need it. If you don't need it,
Yeah.
then don't use it.
Yeah, with Azure SQL Ledger, some companies are just offloading logging, audit logging to the blockchain so they can ensure that if a transaction happened in the application, let's say it's a baseball application with teams and games and scores, that no one can alter it once it's written. It's just a way of ensuring that data integrity. But yeah, that it's a good solution. For that. But yeah, there's a lot that you can go pretty deep, So, for those that don't know, blockchain, and crypto very tightly coupled, but individual things. And yeah, the other thing, I didn't know if I told you this, Carl, but I'm interested in, I'm writing some, when I say I'm writing it, Chat GPT is writing it because, as we know, it does a majority of our work, everyone's work these days. And if it isn't, then it should be. For anyone that is unaware of Chat GPT, download it and ask it to do whatever you want, so you can be work super smart. But an API integration layer in C# with Stripe, which is like online payments, because I believe Stripe offers pay with Bitcoin. So you know how you can check out with Apple, PayPal, whatever credit card you want, and then I guess it like adjudicates or like hits a credit card through Stripe, and then they take a fee, kind of like the Square when you run your credit card through the adapter. But they have pay with Bitcoin. So it'd be kind of cool to offer that as a solution for some of the micro SaaS that, we develop. But yeah, and imagine that, like, yeah, I'd like to buy this skateboard, I would like to pay with 0.0000 whatever one Bitcoin. But yeah, pretty cool integrations on that part on the C# side. And the only thing else I have, Carl, from like an app dev perspective that we didn't get to is, how you talked about the front ends with all the SPA frameworks. For people that are just kind of in that, like, where do I start? Yeah, React is huge. Like if you search Indeed, like what's the most popular, how many job postings there are for a front end developer, React is like probably number one. But I would say that people that are unsure, play and try them out, see which one you like. However, another good tip is if you write everything in HTML, for the most part, you can plug and play that to all 5 of the SPA frameworks. So start with the raw, and then you can move it around, because at the end of the day, you don't want to write it twice or lose any code when you port between them. And if you ever have HTML, or actually if you ever have React, you can probably paste that code into Chat GPT and say, convert this React code to Angular code. I watched a video right before hopping on this call where Nick Chapsis, who's one of the most awesome .NET podcasts, he's like pretty, he went from, I'd say 2 years ago, from like 10,000 subscribers on YouTube to now 150. Like he's just went crazy. But he took a bunch of code from a legacy app in C#, plopped it into Chat GPT, and this released 4 hours ago. And he said, refactor this to be more performant in these ways, and it all compiled, it all worked. Like, we're talking about paying consultants big money to refactor and migrate from one system to another. But yeah, and if you guys are unsure about what to do, take Carl and Rui's advice, and also maybe ask a third party like Chat GPT what you think you can do. But again, don't trust the robot, trust the humans.
Right.
That thing's not fully baked. But yeah, those are the only tips I got from a app dev side. Anything else we didn't cover today, Carl, that you want to mention before?
No, but I mean, there's a lot. These conversations can go on for hours and hours, and no, if you guys want to do a follow up, we can do a part two.
Yeah, we'd love to have you back, and
Yeah.
maybe we can go a little bit deeper into a specific part that's like the most, even more passionate. Carl, when you were talking about how you can keep on going and going, and you got to remember to unacronym for all audiences and stuff. And
Yeah.
well, first off, you did a great job with that today, because you did explain all that like you normally do. And I would say that's a very amazing feature that you have, because when you get passionate and you just start going down those rabbit holes, people love that, and people love to listen to that and learn. So that passion is definitely good to anyone getting into it. So yeah, that would be great. Rui,
Yep.
what about you? What did we cover? Anything else?
No, I think everything's been said. I think it was a lot of information. That was great information, Carl. Thank you for being here with us. And yeah, we can do a follow up for sure. We can probably dive into the more technical side of it. It'd be nice to talk about like Solidity and all the smart contracts and how they kind of talk to each other, because I have no idea about that stuff. Although I'm a developer, I haven't delved into Solidity too much and smart contracts. But yeah, it'd be nice to talk about that.
Yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah, well, Chat GPT's. I played with it to do some DSP code in C++ for audio plugins, FX plugins, and what would have probably taken me 20 or 30 hours, I did in like just a couple hours. It's incredible.
Yeah,
Incredible.
it is.
It's pretty scary.
I really feel that there's a bunch of devs out there, or a bunch of people out there with the skies falling approach to developers' jobs are gone. I just want to make it very clear to everyone out there, because I'm not like a catastrophist like I would say a lot of people are about developer jobs. Even though there's layoffs, I will say, even though WordPress came out with the administration where you go and add your pages and stuff, they still hire WordPress consultants. It's one of the highest demanded jobs out there, because at the end of the day, if you think the market's fried and stuff, you're biased because you're a smart developer out there looking at the market. Like there are people that have no clue about like what is this at all, and they will hire these people. It's just now, and really we said this last time, instead of like them hiring 3 developers at 100K a year, they'll now hire you at maybe, or the aspiring developer at 160K, but then not the 2 other people, because they know you'll work the job of 3 people with the tools of Chat GPT and stuff. You're now just more efficient and effective. People still need you. The job market's going to thrive. Catastrophe is not here. It's just going to make everyone better and more efficient and productive.
Yeah, I mean, it may reduce the workforce, but honestly, that's all speculation. We don't know.
Yeah,
we don't know.
Yeah, so don't worry, everyone. All right, Carl, thank you so much. Appreciate it. Rui, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys.